Hey everybody, I'm actually responding to a question asked by a Facebook friend, Ari bin Avram. And the question was, why has there been division rather than a unity goal for several years? Well, I would say basically for well over almost a generation. Because the Raiders came back here in 1995. Then assistant city manager as a report put together the schematics of the deal, if you will, in 1992 leading to 1993. So 92, 2002, 2012, 2015, that's 23 years. Well, if you add that, that's about 23 years, 35 years is a generation. Some people would say 35, 17 years is a generation. The bottom line is it's about a generation, arguably, that we've had that problem. The question is why, and the answer is multi-layered. First, and it's rooted in this, that Oakland, as I said this when I was trying to bring the 2005 Super Bowl to Oakland. We lost to Jacksonville. I was working on it between 1999 and 2001 when I left the city of Oakland. And basically, the answer is that I said then that we would be better off as a city if San Francisco didn't exist. The San Francisco Bay Area is, in its history, is primarily surrounded by what San Francisco has done in its growth. It doesn't matter if it's the Golden Gate Bridge or the San Francisco Oakland Bay Bridge or the recovery of the San Francisco earthquake and fire, how San Francisco recovered. It's largely a history of San Francisco, and then every other city is around it. Oakland has been the stepchild, and then in the 40s, Henry J. Kaiser located his shipbuilding plant here and established an incredible medical facility and attracted African Americans from the South to come here and work on building ships for the war. And that created Oakland's black population. By the 60s, Oakland was known as a black town. And you have to remember America's racist history. We had the establishment of the Civil Rights Amendment in 1964. Martin Luther King was assassinated in 68. Everyone who knows American history knows the history. We're not far removed from that. And so Oakland had a period where, particularly during the 70s, it was not only a black town known for example, the Black Panthers and Huey Newton, but it had its first black mayor, Lionel J. Wilson, and it developed one of the first black government professionals. And during that time, some of the professionals got their jobs through friends, just like happens now, but different colors. And while Oakland was growing in that way, it developed a great way of getting public funds or government grants to build projects here because of one glaring fact. It is called institutional investor racism. Institutional investor racism plagued Oakland for years. And what I mean by that, I mean that instead of a Benetton, for example, building in Oakland, they would leapfrog and build someplace else. California Commercial Investments, or California Capital Group now, managing director, a friend of mine, Phil Tagami, will tell you about the kind of investor racism that he personally faced in trying to get stores to build in Oakland. And I was economic advisor to Elihu Harris at the time. So you tie that in, you tie this constant frustration to build in Oakland, and everyone has an idea, everybody's frustrated, everybody's trying to help. But then you have people who want to be the person that saved Oakland. And so if you tie all that together, it creates a lack of unity because you have one person that thinks that they have the idea over the other person who happens to be in power and doesn't listen to that person. And that's a key reason why when I tried to bring the Super Bowl to Oakland and I established the Oakland-Alameda County Sports Commission, I had a board that grew to 145 people. Someone said we're too many people, but I did it for that reason, because in Oakland we had a tendency not to talk to each other. I tried to get George Vukasin, who was the president of the Coliseum, to come in, but he was mad because of the way he was treated by then Oakland council member and Oakland Coliseum Joint Powers Authority chairperson Ignacio de la Fuente. He's still angry about that to this day. George Vukasin is the chairman of Puritas Coffee. And what happens is that when you have that, the only way around that is what former city manager and city administrator Robert Bob would always say hands on, all hands on deck. And that is, you get everybody who has something to contribute to the table. And what frustrates me about the Coliseum City process is it's a continuation of the same kind of behavior. And I'm saying that because Libby is, I'm closely associated with her. And I said before, need to do this, establish a task force so you have everybody at the table, members of Save Oakland Sports, to everybody else, and we have a checklist of what needs to be done, and we can correct problems even before they become problems and move forward. We have to get a new developer, we do. If we have to strengthen what the current developer is doing, we can do that. But we have a task force that is consistently focused on this, rather than someone from the city council saying, well, the mayor's office doesn't have enough staff members and she has other things to worry about. Well, yeah, we all know that, but that's why you have a task force. That's what task forces of volunteers do, okay? So, and we haven't done that. And then once again, when you talk to, you talk to an elected official in Oakland or a county supervisor here in Alameda County, they say, well, we are doing. And it should never be we are. It should be, hey, how can we bring everybody else together so that it's us rather than that person? Because they always feel like it's their job. But think about it. The elected official isn't focused on one thing. They've got a number of things to focus on. So how can you reasonably expect us to get a great deal or a great proposal for Coliseum City if the elected officials insist on holding everything to themselves, and then more sinisterly listening to one person out of one ear and the other person out of the other ear and playing one person off against the other, and it becomes crazy making, and that's where we are. Coliseum City, and Joe Tuman was right when he ran for mayor and pointed this out, was used as a political football. It started, Frank Dobson and Bob Leslie created the idea. You can see the presentation that I filmed, my video blog on it in 2009 when I was on Ron Dellum's Sports Task Force. And that's another example, because even Dellum's made the mistake. Dellum's had a sports task force, but you would think, okay, that was one group, right? No, there were 4 groups. And none of them talked to each other. And it was the same damn thing all over again. You had Doug Boxer doing his thing, us doing our thing. No one talked. There was 2 other CEO groups involved. It was a Keystone Cops routine. We don't seem to want to listen to each other or work together as a city. And it happens again and again and again and again. And it's happening now. And we've got a situation where other cities that are smaller have an easier time focusing because of their structures, are beating our butts in terms of creating proposals to get the raters. And I understand everyone says, well, it's a matter of public money. We get that. But look, we have to be smarter in terms of how we think about mechanisms to build infrastructure and save tax dollars at the same time. And we can do that. This isn't rocket science. No one, until me, has developed a publicly produced spreadsheet on Coliseum City in all the years this thing has existed. Everyone can do one. All you got to do is do a little homework. The hotel part that I put in, I got that from an industry standard spreadsheet. I just reworked it a little bit, installed it right into the proposal, and voila. It's not rocket science. So you have to understand, if a person has 24 hours a day and they're the developer and they have the E&A, what the hell are they doing? Moreover, what the hell are we doing, not holding their feet to the fire and saying, okay, do it now? It's crazy. And where's our task force? We need one task force, not 4 like Dellum's had. I quit the Dellum's task force. I made it public that I quit. I got into an argument with Guy Saperstein, which I won, because Guy was just being completely ridiculous, and moved forward. But I am sick and tired of this stuff, okay? And it happens all throughout Oakland's political and socio-political DNA. We have to change the DNA. Oakland has to prove that it has the will and the initiative to complete big projects. The last big project we completed in the city was arguably the rebuilding of Oakland City Hall and the establishment of Oakland City Center. And that's it. That's it. We haven't had anything else. We've had little bits and pieces here. And it's so poor, our development, that we're happy to see a restaurant here or there because we didn't have them before. Because we were, again, the victims of institutional investor racism. We were all frustrated. And there were those who thought, well, maybe if we make the government more white, then it'll be better. No, I'm just being blunt with you. That was the undercurrent of thinking. No, not the case at all. There was another thinking during the late 90s that, hey, if you bring more white money people into the downtown, it will automatically make Oakland better. We have a private sector to offset the, to help and offset the government sector, so we didn't consistently need the government to pay for things. But that hasn't worked either, in part because Jerry just wanted housing rather than building a true city. Okay, Jerry being Oakland mayor, now California Governor Jerry Brown. Jerry was great at using Oakland to rebuild his image to become governor, which I say, and I've said that he is a position he rightly deserves because of his mindset and talent and background and everything else. But that's him. It's not about the city and us. We're all great at producing platforms for ourselves in California. It's the land of the individual, the land of leisure. But when it comes to coming together to do things, we consistently fall apart. Big things. We consistently fall apart. Other cities don't. And we're up against big players. Or we're up against small towns that want to prove that they're big. And we sit right in the middle. And we don't work hard enough. And it's frustrating.